Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. When we think about the apostles, the original 12 disciples of Jesus, what's the first thing that comes to mind for many of us? Often it's their dramatic and often brutal deaths. We hear stories of Peter being crucified upside down, Andrew on an X-shaped cross, and James being the first to be executed. Martyrdom seems to be a defining characteristic of these foundational figures of Christianity. But there's one apostle who stands out, whose story takes a completely different path. I'm talking about John, often called the beloved disciple. Unlike almost all of his peers, John wasn't martyred. He lived to a ripe old age, dying a natural death. This fact might seem like a simple piece of trivia, but it holds a profound and powerful message, one that's incredibly relevant for us today. John's life isn't a story of a glorious death, but a testament to something just as difficult, if not more so, a lifetime of faithful endurance. So today, let's explore why John the Apostle is a powerful symbol, not of martyrdom, but of unwavering endurance through decades of trial, change, and perseverance. Let's peel back the layers of his incredible life. First, let's establish the context. The early Christian church was born into a hostile world. Following a crucified Messiah was a dangerous path. The Roman Empire, with its pantheon of gods and emperor worship, viewed this new faith with suspicion, often seeing it as a threat to social order. Persecution wasn't a constant, empire-wide policy in the first century, but it was a very real and recurring danger. Christians faced social ostracism, economic hardship, and sporadic, violent crackdowns. In this environment, martyrdom became a highly honored concept. To die for one's faith was seen as the ultimate act of devotion, a powerful witness that could inspire others. The martyr was a hero, their story told and retold, their sacrifice a cornerstone of the burgeoning faith's identity. And many of the apostles met this fate, sealing their testimony with their own blood. So where does John fit in? Tradition, supported by early church fathers like Irenaeus and Eusebius, tells us that John lived a very long life, well into the reign of Emperor Trajan, which began in the year 98 AD. This means he likely outlived all the other original apostles by several decades. He spent his later years in Ephesus, a major city in modern-day Turkey, where he led the Christian community. Now, this doesn't mean John's life was easy, far from it. The road of endurance is often just as painful as the path of martyrdom. One of the most famous stories about him, recounted by the early Christian writer Tertullian, describes how John was arrested and taken to Rome. There, he was supposedly thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil, but miraculously he emerged completely unharmed. Think about the terror of that moment, the searing heat, the expectation of a horrific death. While he survived, he experienced the full psychological and physical horror of a would-be execution. After this event, he wasn't set free. He was exiled. The Roman authorities sent him to the barren, rocky island of Patmos. Exile was a common Roman punishment designed to isolate and silence influential figures. Imagine being an old man, forcibly removed from your community, your friends, and your life's work, and sent to a desolate island prison. It was a sentence of slow social death, a life of loneliness and hardship. This is where the idea of endurance really shines. It would have been easy for John to despair, to feel abandoned by God, to believe his ministry was over. He was physically isolated, his voice seemingly silenced. But what did he do on Patmos? He didn't just survive, he received and wrote down one of the most powerful and enigmatic books in the entire Bible, the Book of Revelation. On that lonely island, in the midst of his suffering, John was given a profound vision of cosmic struggle, divine justice, and ultimate victory. He wasn't just enduring his own personal trial. He was given a perspective that encompassed all of history and eternity. He wrote this vision down to send a message of hope and encouragement to the 7 churches in Asia Minor, churches that were themselves facing intense pressure and persecution. The message of Revelation is a message of endurance. It tells its readers to hold fast, to remain faithful, even when the world seems to be controlled by monstrous evil powers. It assures them that God is ultimately in control and that their faithfulness, their patient endurance, will be vindicated in the end. And who better to deliver this message than the man living it out on a prison island? John wasn't just writing about endurance. He was embodying it. His own life had become a living sermon. After the emperor who exiled him died, John was eventually released and returned to Ephesus. Even then, in his final years, he didn't retire. He continued to teach, to write, and to lead. The letters attributed to him in the New Testament, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, are filled with themes of love, truth, and perseverance. A famous tradition tells of how, as a very old man, too weak to give long sermons, he would simply be carried into the church and repeat over and over, "Little children, love one another." This simple, powerful message was the distillation of a lifetime of walking with Jesus. He had seen it all. He was the last living link to Jesus' earthly ministry. He had witnessed the crucifixion, the resurrection, the birth of the church, the spread of the gospel across the empire, the martyrdom of his friends, and the rise of persecution and heresy. Through it all, he held on. He endured. So why is this distinction between martyrdom and endurance so important for us? Because while very few of us will ever be called to face a martyr's death, every single one of us is called to a life of endurance. Life is long, and faith is a marathon, not a sprint. We face our own versions of Patmos, periods of loneliness, doubt, and hardship. We experience spiritual dryness, personal loss, health challenges, and the slow, grinding pressure of a culture that can be indifferent or even hostile to our beliefs. It's in these long stretches, not just the dramatic moments, that our faith is truly forged. John's story teaches us that faithfulness isn't just about a single, heroic moment of sacrifice. It's about getting up every day and choosing to follow Jesus, even when it's hard, even when we feel alone, even when we don't see the dramatic miracles we might be hoping for. It's about loving people when they're difficult to love. It's about holding on to truth when lies are easier. It's about trusting in God's ultimate victory when the present looks bleak. John's life validates the quiet, unseen faithfulness of ordinary people. The parent patiently raising children in the faith, the employee maintaining their integrity in a morally compromised workplace, the elderly person praying faithfully day after day, the person battling chronic illness with grace. This is the stuff of endurance. This is the legacy of the Apostle John. His long life was a unique and powerful witness. It demonstrated that God's purpose isn't always fulfilled in a blaze of glory. Sometimes it's fulfilled in the quiet, steady glow of a life lived faithfully over many, many years. He shows us that the ultimate goal is not necessarily to die for Christ, but to live for Him, day in and day out, for as long as He gives us breath. So the next time you think of the apostles, remember John. Remember the man who survived boiling oil and a prison island. Remember the man who outlived them all, not because he was lucky, but because he had a different kind of testimony to give, a testimony of a long obedience in the same direction. His life is a powerful reminder that our endurance is its own form of witness, a testament to a God who is faithful through every season of our lives. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What does endurance look like in your life? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content that dives deep into these incredible stories. See you in the next one.